So I'm currently walking by Queen's Park, I believe up one of these streets. So I'm currently walking down the perimeter, and up one of these streets is a street full of cherry blossoms. So I wanted to see if I could sit on the area in the park in Queen's Park and then paint down the street. Looking down this street, I only see a handful of bright pink magnolias and no cherry blossoms. So this is 5th Avenue in New Westminster. The websites I was looking at said that cherry blossoms would probably be in bloom at the first week of April, which it is, and they are definitely not out yet, but you can see some reddish over there. So I will not be painting that street today. So now I'm looking more towards the park to see what I want to paint in there. There is a gazebo with a garden, so there might be some tulips out that might be fun. Not that we have to paint flowers. In reality, I really want to work on my forests and painting forests while outdoors, which is really difficult because the light constantly changes. So finding the shapes is challenging. But I was thinking I was only going to drive up here, but decided to walk. Got to get used to carrying this backpack. Yesterday I weighed it in at 12 kilograms. I did not weigh it in today. I think it's a little bit lighter. But as I create these videos and as I paint more outside, I'm trying to figure out what to bring and basically hone my practice. So let's go look for a spot to paint. So this is the rose garden. Although the roses are not out yet. We are zoomed in. I want to zoom out. There we go. So I am thinking about painting this layered scene right here with the yellow tree and then the shaped evergreen trees behind. However, it's quite daring as there will be spectators since there's not only a parking lot there, but we are along a path, if you see behind me. So the path runs directly behind me. So painting here, I can pretty much guarantee that I will have an audience come through. So I'm just unpacking my bag, and the first thing I set up is my tripod. But as soon as the sun came out, it got really hot in that spot. So I am setting up my new easel. It's called a letter easel. And it has two parts to it. There's a front part that carries the palette, and then there's a stand on the top that carries the canvas. And what I like is I can put any size canvas or board in there. And I quickly move into the shaded area because it was just so warm in the sunshine. And likewise, you can see the harsh light on the actual canvas itself. So I'm still getting used to this easel and adjusting the tripod. And what's nice about carrying my larger palette is I also use it as a tabletop to put up my paints. And now I'm photographing the scene in case the light changes, which it will do with these puffy clouds constantly blocking the sun. All right, here is the view I'm thinking of painting. And I'm showing it horizontally, but since I've sat down, this shadow came in, which is great because it'll lead people in this way. You have this curve, which I can accentuate leading in and getting smaller. The focus isn't that interesting. It's a dark tree onto a greenhouse. Originally, I sat down here because I liked this yellow tree here, but I love the shapes of these guys, but they're kind of covered by these branches, and it's just giving like a gray shape back here. But I should take advantage of that and just muddle in the colors. And I like how there's two repeating bushes that have been carved, but then here the black shadow from the tree comes up, but then this one's lit on the side, but they both have shadows on them. So it's interesting. I don't know how I will make this look good in a painting yet. And since I will be vertical, you might get this cloud up here and then some blue up there. Now my actual canvas is pink, and this is actually the magenta. I mixed magenta with the yesterday's leftover paints and got this kind of grayish dusty pink, which I'm excited about, but I thought I'd be painting cherry blossoms. But I'm not sure how I'm gonna figure this all out. But let's do a sketch and that will help me get a little bit further into the idea. So I ended up realizing that I forgot my sketchbook, and I did have an extra panel to paint on, so I did my sketch on the back of the panel. And it actually worked out really well. You can see I started just drawing in the shapes and then drawing in the rectangle of the canvas after, which helped me lay everything out. So put down the shapes and shade a little. And it actually got really hot, so I took off my jacket and pants when I was in the sun, and then it got really cold sitting there in the shade. So overall, for the rest of the afternoon or the rest of the morning, it was really cold there. Checking in with my sketch again, and then now I'm starting to lay it out onto the canvas. I am using burnt sienna to lay everything out, and you see me looking down because I'm looking down at where I wanted to place those shapes from my sketch. So one thing I realized from my last plein air painting is if I put my hand near the lens, it actually blurs the scene and focuses on my fingers. So I can also use that to help me with my values and shape studies. I just end up with a photograph that has fingers in front. So I'm mixing some of those light colors behind, and you also saw me say hello to some preschool kids that walked by, and we're heading to the park. So I'm placing in some sky, some clouds. You see me opening up these containers. They are Golden Matte Liquid Paint, and it's my first time using them. And I really like that they're matte, so they dry, not shiny, which is nice when you're painting outdoors, so you don't get any glare on the paints, and you also know when the paint is dry because it doesn't have a gloss finish. And so it is glossy when it's wet, and then as it dries matte. However, I found the colors to be a little more muted than I would like. Now I'm placing in the green of the foreground. And as I come forward, I add more blue, so a deeper shadow, and then I blend it all together so it comes like a gradient coming forward. And since I've started painting outdoors, I started using those blue towels that are usually used in a shop, like a machine shop, and they're quite absorbent, and they've been great for absorbing the paint, and I end up throwing them out when I'm done with them. However, I've used reusable cloths in the past, and I end up washing them, and the paint still goes down the drain. So I'm not sure which is better for the environment, whether to do disposable towels or try to wash the paint out. But I think throwing out the towels with the plastic on it is better than putting it into the water system. If anyone knows something different, please let me know in the comments. Just trying to make some more shapes in the sky area. I'm still trying to figure out how to render trees off in the distance. And I have some tricks when I'm painting in the studio, but still figuring it out when I am painting outdoors. So these are the two trees, the shaped trees that I really like, that create a little bit of pattern, but they're shaded differently. So they'll be fun to shade in as the first layer dries. Now I am mixing the green for the other side of the grass, so the grass that is in the sunshine. And one thing you'll see me do is I test the color on the canvas and see whether it's too dark or too light. So when I chose this color, you can see it's a bit brighter than the grass that's around me, but that's because I'm working from the photo on my phone when the grass was in the sunshine, which you can also see in the YouTube video on the left. And I'm trying to place those sky holes so that you can see some branches as well. So I just adjusted the camera, having a snack, and looking at the first layer of paint. So putting that shadow on the front bush, as well as putting that dark shape in the background that's by the greenhouse. And this is the white of the greenhouse. And then adding a few spots for the clouds. Carving out some of those trees with a lighter gray. I think I go back and forth a few times. In most paintings, I go back and forth a few times in the sky. Always changing my mind. Continuing to layer colors on everywhere, which gives the painting depth, and just fixing shapes. The lighter branches on the big cedar that's above the yellow tree. Some of the tulips going in. And now the bright parts of the yellow branches. But I think as I put that yellow in, it was much too bright. I just put the fully saturated yellow on, and now I'm darkening it to try to give this bush some shape. Like I said before, constantly changing the sky, trying to fix it. Alright, so there's the final painting. As I stand back and then look at the scene, I notice that the tree in the middle needs, right now it's fully shadowed, so it needs some highlights to get a little bit more depth. Let me pull up the camera a little bit so you can see. It's very subtle, but it'll give it a lot of depth. So let's see if I can make that happen. Alright, so I was just about to fix those branches on that tree, but then I spilt my new acrylic matte paints and tried my best to clean them up. I was using the paint brushes as spoons and got most of it. So I'm not too worried if a tiny bit of pigment gets into the other containers, but I am kind of disappointed I lost some paint. But there's the piece, and I will just go in and I just want to add some highlights to this one tree, and then hopefully I'll be done. And I can just see when the tripod came down, it actually got some paint on the corner, so I'll get that off as well. Alright, so I was able to scrape off all the paint and mix it into one container, and it ends up being like a light bluey lime green. So I now have that color in my palette. And there is the painting again, but yeah, too bad about the spill that I just had. It's really noisy in this park. They're always doing some kind of work, and as I cut through that section before, a Cessna went by, there was a lawnmower, and then there was some vehicle that was running. So it got really loud, and you can probably still hear them in the background. But I just went to the bathrooms here and cleaned up my brushes, because when I was to clean up that spill of paint, I used my brushes as a spoon, and so that got paint up into the ferrules. So I really wanted to make sure that those brushes were clean before I started my trek home. But I'm pretty happy with the painting that I did today, and it's getting a little bit difficult to do this every day, trying to run an art business at the same time. About 2 months ago, I did a focused effort to improve my marketing, and good news, it's working, but it also means that there's a lot of customer service emails in my inbox. So I try my best to get to those as soon as I can, but also being mindful that I am a business owner all by myself, trying to produce and fulfill orders at the same time. So it's a bit of a balance, and I do want to get better at plein air painting. So it's a bit of a trade-off, and I'm doing my best. And basically I will go have lunch, and I will go start answering those emails. And sorry if I missed your emails. I will get to them. Ooh, I see a nice view in front. Let me show you if I can. Nope, you can't see it. It's blown out. But I can see the layers of Grouse Mountain, and then it looks like there's a red roof and some trees. Basically, once you start doing this more often, the fun part is you start seeing paintings everywhere. Your eye knows how to focus, and I'm really enjoying that and looking forward to the next painting. And then the downside is pretty much as soon as I get home, I find paint on my clothes, and I end up spending a little bit of time cleaning paint off my clothes at home. But that is this. Hopefully I can cut this together to be video number 3. And if you're enjoying these, please subscribe. And if you have any questions or feedback or suggestions or want advice from me about my gear or anything, please leave a message in the comments, and I will get to you in the next video. But I'm super excited to do these, and my videos will keep getting better, so I really appreciate any feedback or any questions that I can then talk about. All right, have a good one, and see you next painting.